So I finished playing Ultra Despair Girls for the first time. It's probably going to be the last time, too. Hey everybody, TinyLeaf here, coming at you live from my studio closet. So as of time of recording, it's been one day since I officially beat Ultra Despair Girls, and yeah, I have some thoughts on it. If you follow me on Twitter, then you know that I've been playing the game since about January of this year. I think I officially started the prologue on January 20th. I need to double check that. And seeing that it's July 3rd right now, yeah, it definitely took a little bit of time. I might change my opinion on this in the future, but as of right now, it's probably one of the most unpleasant games I've ever played, which is saying a lot. So then why am I making this video? Well, it's largely because I know that a lot of people have asked, you know, have you played Ultra Despair Girls? What do you think of Ultra Despair Girls? What are your thoughts on Ultra Despair Girls? And every time I was asked that, I kept saying, I'm still playing it, I'm on chapter whatever. And I mentioned it a few times, but I've just, my playing experience was just so bad that I honestly had to kind of force myself to beat it. Just because of so many reasons, and ugh. So I guess the main reason I'm making this video is just so that it's out there, easily accessible, so that everybody can see, yes, I've played it, and these are my thoughts on it. I will probably do something more formal in the future. It's currently not on my high priority list just because I want to work on a few other things before I get around to unpacking Ultra Despair Girls, because I think I just need a lot of time to kind of process what I think about it and kind of get my words out. But these are going to kind of be my initial impressions and final thoughts on it, having just recently finished it. So maybe in the future you can look back on this video and see how my opinions have evolved over time. And I sure hope that you do evolve, because god damn it, I would really like to enjoy this game more than I did. Also, if you see a lot of jump cuts in this video, it's because this is completely unscripted and I'm shooting this all in one take, just because I'm trying to practice getting my thoughts out in a more timely manner, I guess. So, yeah, you get to find out what I'm like when I'm unscripted. So, unlike all the other Danganronpa games, I walked into Ultra Despair Girls knowing next to nothing. I think the only thing that I really knew about it was that I would be playing as Naegi's little sister, and that there were the Warriors of Hope, and somehow Nagito showed up in the middle of it all. I'm going to start off by prefacing this by saying that I don't play shooter games regularly. I largely prefer games that are more focused on puzzle solving and putting together different story beats, which is why I got into Danganronpa in the first place. So the jump from a very text-heavy, puzzle-based game style to third-person shooter where there was a lot of fast-on-your-feet thinking, it wasn't something that I was really drawn to, and I think that actively hindered my playing experience because, well, with previous Danganronpa games and with the other game that I recently finished playing 6 months ago, Zero Escape 999, it was a lot easier to kind of ease myself into it, and I could move at my own pace. I didn't have to worry too much about, oh, did I remember to save? How long ago was my last save point? I didn't have to worry about constantly being on alert, and I could take some time to actually process my thoughts and capture interesting moments on video. I didn't really get that luxury with Ultra Despair Girls. I pretty much had to constantly be alert, and every time that I sat down to play the game, I really had to make sure that I had a long stretch of time. The thing about Ultra Despair Girls is that if you haven't played it before and you've only seen someone else play it, they're very sparse when giving you save points, and you don't really know when the last one was, or when the next one will be, more like. And so that was part of the reason why it took me so long to beat it, is because I'm a busy person and I have other things I want to work on. So in the past, I could spend maybe 10-15 minutes getting a little bit further in one of those games where I could save as often as I want to. But with Ultra Despair Girls, if I saved a game and I felt like playing a little longer, then either I would have to make the decision to commit another 30 minutes or hour if I was really unlucky, or I would just have to cut myself off there and just not progress further for the night. And I think that kind of is, it makes sense, but I don't think that was really a playstyle that I was fond of. Plus the controls were just really janky. Just the way that it does auto-focus or auto-aiming, it made it very hard to kind of keep track of where all the enemies were. I didn't like that I only had like 4 pieces of health because that made it a lot harder for me to, you know, go take risks. I just ended up switching over to Genocide Jack every single time that I came across in a fight because that meant I didn't get any damage and I could just like slash and crash through everything without worrying about dying. Admittedly, it was really fun to play as her, but I do think it was kind of, I think there should have been a better way of balancing it because Komaru, I guess, is more focused towards like puzzles, and Genocide Jack was more suited towards actual combat. And I think that was kind of difficult because the puzzles weren't even really that good in the first place. I didn't think they were, at least. Those whole, what are they? Mono Man machines? I don't know what I was doing wrong. I just had a really hard time figuring out how they were supposed to work. And I ended up getting a lot of bad scores in later chapters just because I was so sick of the game that I was like, I don't care if I don't get a good score on this and Byakuya calls me trash. I just wanted to get this over with. It doesn't do a good job of incentivizing taking the time to actually play through it all, because by the time you get to one of those machines, you've probably already been playing the game for like 25 minutes, and you're either ready to quit or you just don't have the brain power to focus. And there was like one chapter, I think it might have been chapter 4, I think, where there were like 4 of those machines back to back, and by the second or third one, I was ready to just throw in the towel. I didn't even bother trying to figure out the puzzles. I just switched over to Genocide Jack and killed everything in sight. So one of the main points that a lot of people talk about with why this game is so good is that it gives some really much needed character development to Toko. And if you've watched my tier list video, and I think it's only my tier list video and my 4,000 sub special, then you already know that Toko was one of my least favorite characters, and my opinion has improved of her slightly. But I would still say it wasn't enough for me to like her over anyone else in the Trigger Happy Havoc cast. Maybe, yeah, no, I really can't say that it changed my opinion of her radically. It just made me like her a little bit more, but, yeah. I really liked Toko towards the end of Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, largely because that was the point where she actually felt cooperative and I could actually like her, because I don't really like mean characters in general. I like pathetic characters. Chapters 1 through 3 and half of 4, I just was really annoyed by her because she didn't feel very helpful. She kind of felt like she was always putting me down, and I still don't really know why Komaru liked her. Well, I do like the fact that by the end of it that Toko actually ended up liking us and that she was able to, you know, call us her friend. I thought that Chapter 5 was very sweet. But I felt like her handling of that evolution from friendless loner who only lived to serve Byakuya to I will stay behind in Towa City to protect my friend Komaru Naegi, I felt like that transition period wasn't paced well. I would have liked it if it was maybe a little bit more gradual, because it kind of felt like a really fast turnaround. And I still don't really get why Komaru decided to stick around with her. Komaru had every reason to leave Toko behind except I don't want to die. That's pretty much the only reason why I could think she would want to stay behind with Toko. Speaking of Komaru, yeah, I deeply apologize to all of you people who said that Komaru was a good female protagonist for the series. Highly agree. Komaru was really fun. I really liked her. There were points where I was just like, oh, come on, get over it. We've been through this rigmarole before. We know that you're an ordinary girl, but you've done all these things before. Come on, get to it. That was I think that could have been tweaked a little bit, but I really liked the journey. of just this kind of skittish high school girl to, you know, kind of like the savior of the city of sorts. I thought that was really fun. And she's also just really adorable. This sounds strange to say, but I can easily see how she's related to Makoto. Just, they have that sort of like undying hope and optimism, and I think what makes her edge out over her brother is, I just think it's really funny how sometimes she'll just get like really pissed off. I don't remember any time that Makoto was like that. So yeah, I'm sorry if this is really rambly, but I really liked Komaru. She was probably the highlight of the game for me. Gotta take a moment to look at my list here. So let's talk about the sexual content. Some of my older viewers might know about this already, and it isn't something I necessarily try to hide, but I'm asexual, so that kind of makes it interesting whenever I play Danganronpa games, just because they are very sexual in nature. And I guess when I was first playing through the series, even up through like V3, which I'm coming upon like the 1-year anniversary since I beat that game, I would say up until then, I guess I hadn't really fully processed that the sexual content is just going to be something that Danganronpa does, and I've come to the realization that it's going to always be something that hinders my enjoyment of the series to a certain degree, just because I'm very picky with how I like sex jokes. It's a complicated thought. It's involved a lot of background, behind the scenes reflection on my part. It doesn't change my opinion about a few of the things. Like, I still think it was a mistake to sexualize Mikan in her execution, and to all those love suite scenes, those were still a mistake. A lot of Toko's jokes are really perverted, and I'm not necessarily saying they're bad or that she shouldn't make it, but I think that was a major barrier for my enjoyment of the game, because I can like a good sex joke. I think some of them were really funny. Even Mew got a couple laughs out of me. But a lot of the jokes in Ultra Despair Girls they didn't really land for me. That style of humor doesn't appeal to me, and so that really hindered my enjoyment of it. That's not to say that I think it was necessarily a bad part of the game, it's just something that it's personal, humor subjective, blah blah blah. One thing I am going to criticize though, and I will go into more depth with this in the future when I eventually get around to making a video about Ultra Despair Girls, is that Chapter 3 was just really gross, and in many ways I think it kind of undermines a few things later in the game, just because if you're going to talk about how Kotoko getting sexualized by a bunch of people in the industry, they still show her panties so much, and they still have her get stripped down when she's fighting Komaru. It just makes me really mad. I was this close to quitting the game after that happened, and it still makes me angry to think about it, because they spent a whole chapter talking about, like, oh, Kotoko was abused by her mom because she was sold to do sex work. But then it turns around and it shows you, like, stripping her down, flashing her panties. It just comes across as really hypocritical, especially since they also subject Komaru to sexual assault. And they make you have to just... Yeah, I was really close to just quitting the game at that point. I felt so uncomfortable having to play through that. And I know that there's probably the argument that it's just, like, perpetuating the cycle of abuse with Kotoko, taking that out on Komaru, but I'm of the opinion that sexual assault is not something that you should really show in the game. It's one of those things I think is better of, like, tell, don't show, or you just kind of insinuate that it happens. Because that's not something that was, like, a trigger warning as far as I'm aware of. And it just... It's for similar reasons that there was a scene where Monica kissed Nagisa against his will. That was also so bad. I was filming it when it was happening just because I documented some of my reactions as the text was playing, and when it got to that, I just physically recoiled. It just there was so yeah, that was not fun. Speaking of the Warriors of Hope, I'm not sure how I feel about them. I really liked Nagisa. I thought his development was the best. I think Kotoka was probably the one I felt the most sympathetic for. Masaru, oh, poor boy. For some reason, I don't think Jotaro, is that his name? I forgot. I feel bad for all of them. I just feel like Jotaro could have been handled a little bit better. I don't even know what it is, but for some reason he doesn't jump out very prominently in my mind, which is a shame because, you know, that poor kid deserved better. He definitely did. All the kids deserved better. Oh, Monica. I forgot about Monica. I really liked her. I don't know how I feel about the fact that, you know, the whole pretending to be disabled and then suddenly reveal that she isn't. She makes a point about pitiful children are very powerful. There's actually some interesting communication studies behind that. But I'll figure out my feelings on that later. I will say though, I really love her little skeleton design on the back of her dress. That was adorable. I thought that was really cute. I really liked Monica. She's easily the most monstrous of all the kids, but I really ended up liking her, and somehow she still made me feel bad by the end of it. You know, just seeing her crushed behind all that rubble and her being carried away by the servant at the very end, just kind of sleepy. I thought that was really cute. I don't know. I think Monica might have been my favorite Warriors of Hope. I take back what I said about Kotoko. I found Kotoko to be the most sympathetic. I thought Monica was the most interesting. I really liked her. Dare I say, I think she might have been my favorite mastermind in the whole series. But we'll see how that changes with time. I was kind of disappointed to see that there were references to the previous Trigger Happy Havoc's cast's families in that. I thought it was really cool when we got to see Aoi's little brother Yuta, and we got to see Chihiro's dad. I don't remember his name. I don't think they ever gave us his name. And there were those other moments where we got to see, you know, little snapshots of them, like Kanon, I think was one of their names, Taka's dad. Oh, Celestia's cat. That was cool. Hiroko was awesome. I liked Hiroko. She seems so cool, and I wish I got to spend more time with her. But I say that about everyone. I would have really liked it if we got to see some more people that were connected to the Trigger Happy Havoc cast. I'm really bummed out that they don't get a lot more attention because I honestly think they might be one of my favorite classes. And it just kind of a letdown that we only got to see maybe a couple of them, and that was it. I know that I got access to the light novel, Ultra Despair Hagakure. Maybe that features my boy Hiro in it. But yeah, I just felt like I was really disappointed that I didn't get to see more from the Trigger Happy Havoc cast or their families, because if they were half as likable as Komaru, I think it could have been made for a very interesting journey. R.I.P. Chihiro's dad. You were the real one. I also wish that more of the remnants of despair had showed up, because imagine how cool it would be to like see a punk rock Ibuki like running through the town Mad Max style on the back of a car that's being piloted by, I don't know, whichever one of the people that can drive. I just would have been really happy to see more of the remnants of despair, because the Monokuma kids, they don't really have much of a presence, and the Warriors of Hope, again, I don't feel like have much of a presence. I really think they missed out on an opportunity to pay lip service to maybe a couple of the remnants of despair. I just think it'd be really cool to see them actually being remnants. They're cool, and I think it kind of sucks that the only one we got was Nagito, because, of course, everybody loves Nagito. I will say that I did like Nagito a little bit more in this game. It's interesting, kind of the way that he rationalizes being a part of Ultra Despair. But it's still, like, I feel like it could have been a lot more interesting to have someone else who maybe was an actual antagonist at some point. Because imagine, like, having to fight Akane or having to go confront Peko or Ibuki. I just really miss the SDR2 girls. They deserve better. They do. Where was I going with this? But speaking of relatives, Haiji, what's that fandom's opinion on him? Do people like him? I thought he was a monster. Like, he's a pedophile. He's a pedophile, and they don't bother saying that. And just the fact that even someone like Komaru is too young for him, and she's like probably 18 max, just what the I do think he's meant to represent that, you know, parents can actually be monsters and that they can get carried away, or adults in general can be monsters. But I don't know, I felt like they kind of brushed over the fact that he explicitly described an attraction to young girls. As young as possible, as he likes to say it. Like, Toko called him a lolicon, which, just call him a pedophile. I mean, for the love of God. If you want to make the argument that there's a difference between lolicon and pedophilia, get out of my channel, please. I thought that he would receive more comeuppance besides just being a sad sack at the end of the chapter. Like, he is indirectly responsible for pretty much all this happening. Like, he just makes me so mad, and I just wish that someone would have said the word pedophile just one time. Just one time! I have some notes about down here, right here, yeah, one of my final notes is just Haiji Towa. At the end of the day, capitalism is the real enemy. There were some messages in the story, like when Komaru was talking to the adult resistance about how they need to stop being cowards and actually fight back against the children. I don't think they accomplished making me sympathize with that decision, or with Toko actually saying that you need to buck up and fight. Because the thing is that the adults really didn't have anything. As far as I can tell, they didn't have any weapons of sorts to fight back against the children. Like, the morals are... I like the idea of, like, you need to be able to make decisions for yourself, be self-sufficient, and that part of strength comes from being able to cooperate with others. But I feel like some of the other underlying messages are kind of undermined when you step back and remove yourself from the world of the game and you kind of look at it objectively, because they can't fight back. They really don't have any options. If Haiji didn't even have that Big Bang Monokuma thing, they would not have any weapons to fight back, or unless nothing that could combat against the kids. The only person that lesson really applies to, I guess, would be Haiji, because he was the only person who actually bothered to have a weapon as a backup. But when that happened, he just decided to do nothing because he was a coward. His family. All of them are awful. This is just a sidebar because I want to say it. I liked Shirokuma, didn't really feel much for him, but he was sweet. Definitely would hug him. Kurokuma is the bane of my existence, least funny character in the whole series. I apologize to Monokid, at least he only lasted one chapter. I don't know if I have any other thoughts to say. Like I said, I only finished beating the game yesterday, and I haven't delved too deep into discussing, like, thinking more about, like, what it means in the grand scheme of the Danganronpa series. But yeah, those are my general thoughts. I don't think I'll be playing it again. There were parts that I liked. I just feel like the game as a whole was uncomfortable and a disappointment. I could probably recommend it if you're like really chill with a lot of sexual content and sex jokes, and are really chill with dealing with subjects of abuse and torture. If that's something that's up your alley, I think it'd be something you're interested in, but I honestly can't recommend it to anyone. I don't think anyone should play it. Honestly, you'd probably be better off watching someone else play it, because then you could suffer with someone. If I had to give this game a rating, I'd probably give it 5 out of 10, maybe. I think it could work maybe if it wasn't a Danganronpa game and maybe some of the material was handed off to someone else. But as it is right now, I didn't like it. I don't want to play it again, and I honestly just would rather forget about it in its entirety. But the good news is that I finished playing it, and that means the only Danganronpa game I haven't played myself yet is the original, Trigger Happy Havoc. Kind of went out of order there. So anyways, that's gonna be the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Until we meet again, take care, brush your hair, and I will see you soon. This is TinyLeaf, signing off.